Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode we delve further into the wizarding world of Harry Potter with the third movie adaptation derived from the works of J.K. Rowling. That is of course the movie based on the third book in the Harry Potter series, the 2004 fantasy adventure Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, as directed this time around by Alfonso Cuarón, who takes over the directorial duties from Chris Columbus, after having directed the first two movies in the series. Now, before I get started again, I just wanted to issue a disclaimer, as I have done for each movie so far. I can't comment on the movie with respect to the books, having never actually read any of them. So I'll be coming purely from the point of view of the movie itself and the overall Harry Potter movie franchise, rather than going into detail with regards to its closeness to the source material, of which, as always, I am not remotely even qualified to even attempt. So, in this third instalment, we catch up once more with the title character Harry Potter, as played once again by Daniel Radcliffe, continuing to struggle living with his adoptive parents, the Dursleys, as played by Fiona Shaw and Richard Griffiths, and their spoilt son, Dudley, as played by Harry Melling. Matters are made even worse when their Aunt Madge, as played by Pam Ferris, comes to visit and insults Harry's parents to the point he ends up inadvertently inflating her like a giant beach ball, which then, she floats out of the house and into the atmosphere. I can't help but smile. It's brilliant, that part. After running away, Harry is picked up by the Night Bus, a magical charter that exists to assist wizards and witches who find themselves in need of some help, which then takes Harry to the Leaky Cauldron, where he then beds down, awaiting the day he can return to Hogwarts. So as we now enter our third year at Hogwarts, at School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, it is clear things are starting to get serious. The stakes are being raised, and indeed we now have a killer on the loose, Sirius Black, as played by Gary Oldman, who, after escaping the formidable Azkaban prison, is intent, it would seem, on killing Harry. Danger seems to be the norm for poor old Harry, of course, and it does kind of seem to take it in his stride at this moment in time, I must admit. Just another term at Hogwarts, Teaming up once more with his best friends Ron Weasley, as played by Rupert Grint, and Hermione Granger, as played by Emily Watson, Harry must confront his own fears and torment about his family's history and uncover a terrifying truth that has been with them right from the start. So, what's clear about this movie right from the start is its direction. It is a darker entry than the previous two movies in the series, and Cuarón was clearly looking to make his own mark on the series, which indeed he certainly does with this very wonderfully orchestrated, yet much more subdued entry. It has little of the sparkle and the glitz of its predecessors, instead opting for a more sombre take on the characters with a more direct approach to its storytelling. Its awe this time around comes from its direction, its characters, and its cinematography. You can feel the maturity developed in this movie. Gone are the more cheery, bright, and more innocent moments, This movie means business and takes our trio on more of an emotional journey than perhaps they have been on to date, examining Harry's heartbreak and longing for his parents on a number of levels that play out within, the main focus of the film. In fact, this movie has a distinctly disturbing horror-esque edge to it. I got a very big kind of old-school monster movie vibe from it at times, and this is most certainly sets it aside from its counterparts. Some of their elements may have been terrifying at times, spiders come to mind, but this one went deeper with more sinister elements which were rooted within the entire framework from the start. From the mysteriously menacing Dementors to the werewolves and, of course, deranged killers. Now, all this just makes this movie extra juicy, I can't deny, I do miss the more extravagant visuals of the previous entries. They had much more wondrous quality, but we all have to grow up sometimes, right? And this film, like its two predecessors, perfectly reflects where the cast are in terms of ability, emotion, and maturity, expanding their range within the same universe, but on a much deeper level, which I can certainly appreciate. It's a much more succinct story. Still a long movie, don't get me wrong, they all are, but it continues to cram more than enough into its runtime, such that you barely even notice. We have yet more iconic characters through and, brought into the fold. Indeed, Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, Hogwarts' new defence against the dark arts teacher, as played by David Thewlis, form a solid backbone, if you like, for the movie's centrepiece and have a great spark and chemistry with the existing cast. It's great to see Cuarón, I shouldn't have put his name in that many times, experimenting with the formula and give the franchise a chance to kind of spread its wings and breathe, before it had a chance to kind of stagnate. This movie couldn't be classified as stale by any stretch of the imagination, and more than fuels the wonder and the thirst for what is yet to come. And for as dark as I do find this one, it doesn't lose sight of the fact that at its heart, it's Harry Potter after all, having some wonderfully comedic moments, probably the best Muggle entrances with the Dursleys so far, and indeed some brilliant classroom antics. It perfectly balances, between the more sinister moments and the level of comedy in a more tempered manner, yet still continues to be absolutely enthralling. It's clear that the cast are getting a lot more comfortable with the roles, and the fun that they're having playing and developing these parts further is absolutely magical in itself to behold. Couple this with some absolutely outstanding creature moments and one thrilling, if but totally mad journey on the night bus, and you have an absolute spectacle of a movie that more than earns its keep in the series. The effects are simply surreal as well, They went really all out to create something spectacular here, and whilst the set designs weren't perhaps as lavish as the first two installments in the film, they more than made up for this with more sweeping detail around the grounds of Hogwarts itself. It's even had a few renovations since we saw it last, like magic. And indeed a fantastical attention to detail on the other effects too. Especially, again, the night bus, which simply jump right out of the screen and really do showcase how far we have actually come in terms of the scope and the ambition only 3 movies in, What I would say, and this could be ingrained within the book itself, so it may not be an issue with the film per se, I do find the fact that Ron and Hermione seem to kind of take quite a bit of a backseat in this one for the most part, with the movie kind of concentrating more on Harry's story and anguish this time around. The Scooby Gang didn't really kind of kick in for quite some time, and even then, it still felt like there was something missing in this respect. Ron and Hermione did seem to be kind of off on their own adventures, and indeed, we do see some kind of thin slivers of a romantic spark between the two, or at least a suggestion at the very least. Harry seemed to be more of an outsider, a spare wheel at times, kind of almost like they're all trying to find a place in this group. But I suppose this kind of feeds into the elements later in the series, and was kind of the angle I suppose that they were going for, so we'll see how it all pans out as we go, of course. They do eventually team up, and which is still absolutely awesome, and there are still plenty of endearing moments as the 3 friends tackle their 3rd year at Hogwarts. I also wasn't too keen on what they did to Draco Malfoy in this one, as played again by Tom Felton, who has kind of been reduced from a true villain in the making that we saw in the last movie to this kind of snivelling, whining telltale. It would have kind of been nice to see more of an antagonist form at the same level as the trio, as there was certainly kind of room and scope for this to develop, but alas, not something we get much of here. But these are really only kind of really small gripes, all things considered. The movie is exceptionally well put together, given the depth, the story development, and intrigue it brings to the table, and the investment that it has with the characters overall. The film does mark the last time the maestro of movie soundtracks, if you like, John Williams would be to pen a score for the Potter film too. Although his iconic theme, crafted initially for the first movie in the series, would actually still become synonymous with the franchise as a whole, leaving his imprint firmly in place. Even to this day, I think the new Fantastic Beasts movie still has elements of that original theme. The score he has devised here is absolutely outstanding once again, and it is clear even he has been having fun kind of mixing up this formula, mirroring the dark and the grim tale being told, with some fantastically twisted and haunting notes that still capture the essence of his earlier works, whilst paying tribute to the more alternative and old-school horror kind of monster vibe that the film has itself. So, overall, yet again, this is another fantastic journey into the Wizarding World. However, this time around, we get a much more darker tale with a very old-school horror vibe. We are certainly leaving our sophomore years behind us here, if I've got that right. We have much more of an emotional core, aimed squarely at the anguish and the anger felt by Harry Potter over the loss of his parents. And this kind of feeds directly into the mindset of the movie itself from the very start. It's a personal and heartfelt journey, especially with reference to Harry's past. It's a totally different aesthetic from its predecessors, but excellently atmospheric. It has a distinctly spooky feel, which I absolutely love. And the change in direction and the scope suit this ambition very, very well. The movie certainly feels like it has a distinct purpose, bringing a wonderfully captivating story to life, with plenty of twists and turns along the way, and indeed plenty of that Hogwarts magic. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.